The following program is brought to you by the Big Bear Lake Resort Association, helping to increase tourism to Big Bear Valley.
Big Bear Lake is honored to be selected by AG as the host city for Stage 6. And we're very excited about that. This will be the finish of the Stage 6 2012 Amgen Tour of California.
Welcome to Channel 97, City of Big Bear Lake. My name is Craig Smith, and we're here to talk about the Amgen Tour of California.
Hi, I'm Rick Bates, Director of the Events Resource Office in Big Bear Lake. And today we're going to be presenting you all the information regarding the Amgen Tour of California, its importance to the cycling world, its relevance to professional cyclists, and its impact on the city of Big Bear Lake.
You will also hear comments from local citizens, Big Bear's own professional cyclist, Connor McCutcheon, the California Highway Patrol, City of Big Bear Lake officials, and much, much more.
So to get everything started, we're going to show you a 3-minute recap of the 2010 race. I think it'll be pretty exciting to watch. It was a great time that time, so here we go.
Quite a day for us here in Big Bear. We have thousands of people visiting Big Bear. We're on Versus, which is a worldwide channel. Lots of great exposure for Big Bear and also for high altitude training.
It's an exciting day in Big Bear. We're glad everybody's here. The streets are full. It's just wonderful. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Big Bear Lake, California, Stage 6 of the Tour of California. We call it The Climb. You know, it really is a pleasure to have all the visitors and guests come to Big Bear for the finish at Stage 6. 2 years ago, it was so much fun. This year, it's going to be even better. So come on up. Come up to 6,700 feet for the finish, Stage 6 of the Tour of California. We are so fortunate here in Big Bear to have a huge outdoor playground right in our own backyard. Some folks use it for their personal pleasures, while others use it for professional training. In addition to choosing to come to Big Bear to train, we have folks who move here to train. Our own school superintendent just finished a 100-mile run to show the importance of health awareness and physical fitness to our students. Our own Jordan Romero you may have seen on TV. He recently finished climbing the 7 highest summits in the whole world. He set records in doing this. Jordan is an inspiration to his generation and to all of us. You know, it's only natural for the Tour of California to come to Big Bear for the most difficult of all finishes, Stage 6, the climb.
So you think Amgen will be good for Big Bear?
I think Amgen would be great for Big Bear.
Have you ever heard of Amgen?
No.
What if I told you Amgen is a world-class cycling event and world-class cyclists will be up here in Big Bear?
I'd be interested. I'd like to come to that.
Do you think that's good for Big Bear?
Yeah, good for business. A lot of people come up from Orange County, LA County, bring revenue to the town, which is good.
Why don't we talk a little bit about why the Tour of California is important?
Well, the Amgen Tour California is the largest cycling race in North America. It's a stage race. It starts in Northern California, in Santa Rosa, and it attracts the best athletes in the world that compete in this. I mean, this is a big deal. It's right on par with the Tour de France, and it is broadcast in 250 countries live worldwide. Its impact in the cycling world is humongous. Since it started, what was it, 6 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Actually 8, I think.
8 years ago. It's turned into one of the premier cycling events in the entire world.
And it goes, you know, it covers all sections of California, starting, as Rick said, in Santa Rosa. It goes to San Francisco, San Jose, Sonora, Bakersfield, Palmdale, Big Bear Lake, and Beverly Hills and Los Angeles. So it's an 8-day tour covering 750 plus miles of the state of California. But it also has a huge impact to Big Bear Lake specifically. In 2010, our research had estimated that we've had between 10 and 15,000 spectators here for a Friday in May, which is way more than a typical Friday afternoon in May. Of that group, 37% of those people were first-time visitors to Big Bear. Never been here before, first time they'd ever been in the valley, which was phenomenal for us. You can't buy that type of exposure. 45% of them spent at least one night in one of our lodges or at a second home or camping or with a friend. 76% shopped, and to the best of our knowledge, we had an economic impact of these visitors of about $800,000.
I think of it most importantly, Big Bear Lake represents the mountains. And up until 2010, this Tour California stayed on really down in the lowlands, and it gave us an opportunity to promote Big Bear as an alpine, high-altitude recreational resort, which is huge for us. For us to be able to present that image worldwide is just, you know, it's immeasurable, priceless, if you will. And we're real happy to be able to have it come back for a second time.
Absolutely.
So one of the really interesting aspects of this race and what makes it successful is it's free for all spectators, and over 2 million people watch this race every year. This event's produced by AEG Sports, which is the largest, one of the largest events promoters in the country and in the world. They own the Staples Center. They own a lot of other property throughout the United States and also in Europe. And to be able to create an event that's free for spectators, the cities have to come to the plate. And like I mentioned before, there's a lot of exposure we receive by doing that, and that's our interest of bringing this event here. What we have to do as a city to bring this event here is we have to provide the infrastructure in Big Bear Lake for the event to be produced. And that means we have to provide a finish site, we need to provide volunteers, we need to provide housing for all the athletes, meals for all the athletes, and we have to show in the bidding process, we need to show AEG that we're serious about really promoting cycling and the whole community is involved. And we did a really good job of doing that in 2010. And luckily, they felt that this is a place they wanted to celebrate cycling once again by bringing in Big Bear Lake. So tell me a little bit more about the course.
The course is absolutely spectacular. California is known worldwide for its beauty, and so these cyclists are coming to California for 8 days, 750 of the most scenic miles of California that can be found. Our specific stage in 2010, Stage 6, was highlighted by Phil Liggett, the international cycling announcer, as one of the greatest stages of cycling we've seen in North America ever. And that is a big deal. It was a 135-mile course from Palmdale to Big Bear Lake, and it included 12,000 plus feet of climbing, which if you've ridden a bike and you ride up a hill that may be 100 yards long, figure 12,000 feet and 135 miles of that, and that's what you have for this race at about 22 to 24 miles an hour average, which is absolutely incredible. This year's course will be just as grueling, although slightly different. It will begin in Palmdale again. However, this year it kind of follows the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains in the desert and then makes a turn up to Wrightwood, which gets them to about 7,000 feet before they come back down into the Cone Pass, up behind Lake Silverwood and Crestline, follow the rim of the world, past Lake Arrowhead, Running Springs, Arrow Bear, cross the Arctic Circle, North Shore, Big Bear Lake, cross Stanfield Cutoff, and into Big Bear Lake and Snow Summit, where it'll finish. In addition, the 2010 route was also written up in Velo News, which is the competitive cycling magazine that all racing cyclists read for its difficulty. 28 of the riders were dropped or disqualified in the 2010 stage, either because they couldn't make it or they were taking too long and they were not meeting the time requirements, and at which time they were swept from the course, so to speak. There were several quotes in this article talking about the fact that, quote, the Big Bear Stage was one of the hardest stages I've seen anywhere. It was solid climbing right from the start and never let up. That was truly a grand tour-like stage and perhaps even harder than most. Big Bear Stage in California absolutely measures up to the hardest stages of the Grand Tour. So this stage is a grueling stage, and with 2012 being our stage is being followed up by another mountain climb the next day from Ontario to Mount Baldy. So there'll be a significant amount of strategy that will be come into play this year, which we didn't have last year, and we'll look to Connor McCutcheon to answer some of those questions when he comes on as our on-board local professional cyclist.
So how are we going to pay for all these expenses, the housing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? We're talking about $150,000 worth of expenses. And this has been a partnership that we first started in 2010 between the Big Bear Lake Resort Association, the Big Bear Chamber of Commerce, the City of Big Bear Lake, and the County of San Bernardino, which were 4 equal partners, which provided roughly $25,000 to $40,000 in funding. And then the other aspect is we have sponsors, and AEG works with us so we can leverage this exposure to our sponsors to provide them access to this race, and also to local businesses, so they can actually link their their business or their restaurant or something like that to the event. We have a local organizing committee that is about, what is it, 18, 20 people that are involved in it, that look at each aspect, from volunteers to lodging to logistics to marketing to merchandising to publicity and PR, and we've been meeting since November. To work on all this. And what we've created is not only the race, but all the infrastructure and events and things around it. There's going to be an expo at the finish line, a lifestyle expo that's brought in by AEG and Amgen, and then there's also going to be a local Big Bear cycling expo, which allows a lot of the local businesses to be able to have a little bit of exposure.
Part of this event is very important for us to involve the community. It is put on by AEG, which is an outside promoter. They're a worldwide organization with a ton of money to back them. They bring in the vast majority of what our little community will see on that particular day. But we want our community involved. We want the local restaurants involved. We want the local merchants to have a way to get involved. And as Rick was saying, with the Big Bear Expo, that provides an opportunity to do that. You're going to see posters in the windows of the stores over the next few weeks. You're going to see signs around town, banners around town. You're going to see all kinds of things pointing to that specific day. So it's real important for us to get the community involved. We've actually even got a couple of the high schools involved, making little awards for each of the riders that as they finish the ride, they cross the finish line, they're going to get a clay bear, 150 individually made by the high school students, clay bear, that'll have, Big Bear Lake, Tour of California, May 18th, 2012, and the kid's name on it, that they will have a little commemorative takeaway from Big Bear Lake. So we're trying to get everyone involved.
And another thing to mention about getting involved is we do have a really vibrant volunteer program, and the people that volunteered in 2010, there was roughly 350 volunteers that were involved in this, and they all had a gas. It's like to be involved and be a part of a race like this is a really experience that not too many people get a chance to do. There's volunteer positions being course marshals. There's volunteer positions being at the finish line, helping a little bit with parking and security, as well as other opportunities. If someone wanted to volunteer for this race, they would call Eric at the number 800-4371. That's 909-800-4371. And if somebody would like to be involved in the Big Bear Expo or be a sponsor or a partner in this event, the contact would be the Big Bear Chamber of Commerce at 909-866-4607. You can either have booth space, or there's other opportunities to have web exposure, print exposure, and other ways to promote your business. So those are two good ways to get involved. But I think in a big way, like Craig was saying, we got 10 to 15,000 people. That's our only barometer from 2010 that came up here. But if you have a sign in your window that says, "Welcome Cyclists," you feel like you're part of it. The cyclists or the people coming up and say, "Wow, these guys are cyclists friendly. I'm going to check out your place." So just a simple thing like that, or just keeping in the know of what's happening with the race, could do wonders for your business.
Absolutely. This race is for our community. For all of you that are here as spectators and or residents in the valley and would like to see the race, we wanted to give you a little bit of information as to how to best do that on Friday, the 18th of May. Where to park. There will be parking lots and signage that will direct you to primarily the Garston parking lot of Snow Summit and the Moonridge parking lot of Bear Mountain as the two large lots. Many of the streets around Snow Summit, the finish area, will be closed and no parked because of the residents. We need to protect the residents areas. We encourage people to ride their bikes. If you're local, or if you came up to watch the race and you brought your bike, please do ride your bike. We do have a bike valet which will be capable of holding 1,000 bicycles up at the Snow Summit parking lot area. Just follow the signs to the bike valet. You won't be able to miss it. Road closures and timing of things of that nature for the community. This event is done with as little of impact as possible to the community. We have a rolling closure, we call it, which doesn't really start until about 45 minutes to an hour before the cyclists actually arrive in the valley. And then they make it through from the dam to Snow Summit in half an hour, 40 minutes max from the beginning to the end. So there's really only going to be about an hour and a half worth of closures of the streets. It'll be primarily on the North Shore. Big Bear Boulevard will remain open. The only time Big Bear Boulevard will be shut down is when the cyclists are physically crossing the boulevard at Summit Boulevard, and they will open it in between as groups of cyclists come through. So your delays on the South Shore should not be too bad. School will be out that day. There will be no school in session, so school buses and children will be actively participating actually in the Tour of California events, ancillary events. As far as viewing areas go, there are several places. Obviously the finish area at Snow Summit will be the place which will have the most people. Summit Boulevard was lined 4 or 5 people deep all the way down to the boulevard 2 years ago. Other great viewing areas though are the North Shore Drive through Fawnskin as they weave their way across North Shore. Near the lake, Stanfield Cutoff is a great turn when they turn off a North Shore Drive onto Stanfield Cutoff and they really start getting into the racing mode for the finish line. Turns are always a great place to watch a race because you can see them coming, you see them make the turn, you see them going away. Sandalwood Drive behind Bonds is another great place. A lot of area there, open space, vacant land that you can line up along and watch the race from there. So there's plenty of opportunities to see and view the race. Traffic will not be, other than the fact that there will be quite a few more people in town than a typical Friday afternoon in May. Traffic will not be shut down for long periods of time, and hopefully the inconveniences should be kept to a minimum.
You know, it's important to mention that we have a dedicated website for all the activities and everything that's happening with it. It's bigbearclimb.com. We'll have a spectator guide that will be downloadable PDF that you could access, and we'll have all the up-to-date information about kind of really closely when the road closures are going to be happening, a map to show where the parking is, a schedule of activities and all that kind of stuff. But not only the spectator guide, that site is being changed almost hourly, daily, with information. So if you're really looking for up-to-date information, bigbearclimb.com would be the site to go to. So you've heard a lot from Craig and I about the race. Let's hear what some of the local dignitaries have to say.
As a mayor of the city of Big Bear Lake, I can't tell you how much we appreciate the folks at AmGen bringing this race back to us. We really appreciate all of the hard work that everybody's done, our staff, the folks at AmGen, all of the hard work that goes into a world-class event such as this. And it's just going to be a great race. The economic impact that this kind of a race has on our valley is just tremendous. I mean, when you think of the restaurants, the lodges, the marinas, all of the folks that benefit from a race like this, which generates just numerous tax dollars, which all comes back to the city and lets us provide services to the residents of this great city. It's huge. The impact is just huge. It's going to be a great event. You know, as mayor, I've been asked a number of times, well, why Big Bear? Why is the AmGen coming to Big Bear? And my response is, why not Big Bear? I mean, we've got the greatest city in Southern California. We've got clean air, clean water, blue skies, a huge lake. We have world-class athletes that train up in Big Bear year-round, from boxers to cyclists to runners. They're all here. And it's a 12-month process. You can't drive down the street without seeing some of them training. So when they ask me why Big Bear, my immediate response is, why not Big Bear? It's the greatest city in the county, the greatest city in the state for that matter, and we certainly welcome the AmGen Tour.
The Tour of California is coming to Big Bear. We're very excited about that. The best riders from all over the world will be climbing into our altitude. It's 6,750 feet total for the day, climbing 12,000 feet. And this is one of these areas that you can compare actually to the Pyrenees for the Tour de France. The Tour de France is the biggest in the world, but in the United States, the Tour of California is by far the biggest bike race. Biking is huge in California, huge in the United States. In fact, it's the second most participated sport in the United States, period. We expect 2 million people to come out and experience this race and tens of thousands to come to Big Bear. It's going to be very exciting. People come to Big Bear for training because of the high altitude. We have boxers who come here. We have skiers, obviously, who are here, mountain bikers, cyclists, runners. Everybody comes to Big Bear, again, in Southern California for high altitude training, from soccer teams to baseball teams. It's all right here in Big Bear, and we hope you can come up and see it. What makes the Tour of California so special climbing into Big Bear is the fact that it's 12,000 feet of climbing into Big Bear. Now, what makes it very exciting is the fact that once the riders get back into Big Bear, they will condense back up into a peloton. That peloton will then race through the valley and up Summit Boulevard. What makes it special compared to other mountain finishes is that oftentimes there's only 1 or 2 riders who cross the finish line. At Mount Baldy, it's tough because it's very hard to park up there. Here, you have parking at Snow Summit. We are welcoming thousands of people to see that final race up Summit Boulevard, and it's going to be very exciting. We hope to see you there.
Big Bear welcomes the opportunity to strengthen its brand as a most unique athletic resort community. We're noted for adventure sports, high altitude training, and that has played its way through to giving us kayaking, mountain biking, snowshoeing, and snowboarding, and a wide variety of sports that have really celebrated our mountaintop. And having the open air Big Bear movement has been the cornerstone and the hallmark for who we are today. AmGen's Tour of California in year 2010 established the significance of road cycling in the mountaintop. Spectator interest and the participation on the ground by the enthusiasts has been remarkable. Following that race, we've even launched a series of road cycling races, including the Tour of Big Bear, that sells out every year. Our relationship with Amgen and Natura California has been mutual. Big Bear provides an incredible geography for the big climb, and the climb that is akin to the most difficult challenges of Europe are present here. In fact, we believe that we serve as an incredible entree to the Tour of France, and believe that this year's race in 2012 will be the most exceptional one.
This program is brought to you by the Big Bear Lake Resort Association, helping to increase tourism to Big Bear Valley.
To encourage our Big Bear hospitality, we will have a large number of cyclists in the valley leading up to this race, and we have brought in a law enforcement person to speak with us about that today.
Hello everyone, I'm Shay Burke with Big Bear Productions, and we are in our studio with CHP Officer Ben Baker, who will be talking with us about bicycle safety. Can you tell us a little bit about the CHP's involvement in this year's Tour of California?
The CHP's involvement is basically very simple. Number one, we're going to be setting up roadblocks for major streets along the route, and our PSD detail is going to be following and leading the pack of riders as they go through the route.
Can you explain to the viewers what the Protective Service detail is?
It's a detail that guards our governor, protects foreign dignitaries when they come into California, and occasionally will actually even serve as transport for the president when he's in California.
So these CHP officers will be at every stage of the Tour of California?
That is correct. In fact, the group that's going to be following the tour will stay with the tour through the entire route.
Officer Baker, there will be many cyclists and spectators out in our Big Bear streets for the Tour of California. Can you provide some tips for motorists encountering pedestrians and bicycles?
First and foremost, simply slow down. I mean, there's going to be a ton of people out there. There's going to be a ton of riders. There's going to be a ton of cars parked everywhere, people standing out there with their cameras. You're not going to be able to just go whatever the speed limit is. You're going to have to slow down, use caution, and be aware of your surroundings.
Who has the right-of-way in the roadway, a pedestrian or a vehicle?
As far as in the roadway, the vehicle has the right-of-way. The pedestrian only has the right-of-way when they're in either a marked or unmarked crosswalk, and they enter that crosswalk before vehicles are within their path.
How about a bicyclist in a roadway?
A bicyclist is basically the same as a car. They have the same rights and responsibilities as a driver would of a vehicle. The only difference with a bicycle is if you are going slower than traffic, you're required to be at the right edge of the roadway.
If a motorist encounters a slower moving cyclist in front of them, is it okay to pass around them?
It is okay, but again, a motorist passing has to do so, use good judgment and use caution, because they are passing that bicyclist, and the bicyclist has the right to that lane. So when they are passing, they have to pass in a manner that does not interfere with the bicyclist.
How about passing them over a double yellow line?
I've had a lot of questions on this one, and the answer is no. You cannot be going over the double yellow line just to pass a bicyclist, because you've now created a greater hazard. You are now in the opposing lane with oncoming traffic coming at you and creating a greater hazard.
Should a motorist honk at a cyclist when they're passing around them?
While they're actually passing, no. But if they were to do so ahead of time just to let the cyclist know they're there, that would be prudent.
So for a cyclist, which side of the road should they ride on?
Same side as traffic. They're not going to ride against traffic.
Are there special rules for bicyclists?
Basically, the only real special rules are that they have to stay to the right edge when there's slower moving traffic. If you were in a city area and say there was a bike lane, a bicyclist is required to be within the bike lane and not within the actual road lane.
Are bicycle helmets required for all ages?
They're not required for all ages. It's a good thing for all ages to wear one, adults and children alike, but the law specifically says that if you are under 18, you're required to have a helmet, and it's the parents' responsibility to make sure that their children have helmets.
With the high cost of fuel, is the CHP seeing more cyclists out on the road?
Yes, we are. From an economic standpoint, it saves them money. From a recreational standpoint, it's picked up in popularity, especially up here in the Big Bear area. We've seen a huge influx in the last several years of cyclists, even just on the road. If you have any further questions about traffic safety issues or bicycling issues, you can either look at our website or go to any local CHP office. In addition to officers there who can answer your questions, we also have a wide range of pamphlets that can also give you good information inside of them.
You heard it live from the California Highway Patrol right here in the Big Bear Production Studio. Now let's take a look at the Big Bear Elementary School Assembly with some very special visitors from South Africa.
Louis, when did you realize you wanted to be a pro cyclist? I was about 15 years old when I realized this is what I want to do.
15, how about you, Connor?
Probably about 17.
Christian and Jos?
Yeah, about 13, 14. That age.
I started riding when I was about 12, but I actually realized, or I decided I want to be a professional cyclist when I was about 17.
Yeah, the last race you've done is always the hardest one. So they're all equally hard. It's as hard as you make it, and you always go 100%, so you always make the race as hard as you can.
This is a time trial bike. It's not, you race this individually against the clock instead of against other racers. So it's designed more for aerodynamics than weight and handling.
I'd estimate this bike would cost somewhere between $5,000 and $8,000. And what makes this bike very special is it's made of old, like very lightweight materials, like carbon fiber that the frame's made out of. The wheels are really light, and yeah, basically everything on this bike is just really high tech to make things easier for the cyclists. Yeah, when the bikes are lighter, it makes it easier for us cyclists to go uphill because the gravity doesn't pull down you as much.
Couple things you're going to see on race day. Let me show you this. This is actually, I got this from over at the Chamber of Commerce. This is actually the leader's jersey, the actual leader's jersey for the Tour of California. So the day on Friday, May 18th, when they come up to Big Bear, the person wearing this jersey would be the person who was in the lead starting that morning. So this is a very important jersey. Even if you're on one of these teams, you take off that jersey and put on this jersey so the rest of the field knows that you're the leader. So this is the design and what the leader's jersey is going to look like that day. Another thing that you're going to see that day up in the Snow Summit area, it's traditional for cyclists to like to make a lot, or pardon me, cycling fans to make a lot of noise. So lots of people are going to have these bells on the side of the road encouraging the racers to ride as fast as they can, especially down that finishing stretch.
It is my pleasure to also be able to introduce today Connor McCutcheon, who is Big Bear's own professional cyclist. He is a real solid young up-and-comer in the cycling world, has competed in many states across the western United States, most recently in the Redlands Classic. And we're excited to have him here today to talk more of the technical and specific details about what it feels like and what it's like to train and to be a professional cyclist.
We're here today in the Big Bear Production studio with local professional cyclist Connor McCutcheon. So Connor, tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from? Your accomplishments?
Well, I grew up in Big Bear Lake here, all through kindergarten through high school. I started bike racing about sophomore year. I bought a bike for cross training for the cross country team. I was a runner in high school, and I bought a bike and started racing. I was a lot better at riding bikes, so I stuck with it. Out of high school, I moved to Bend, Oregon, where I started training with Bart Bowen. I progressed a lot and won the Crit at Cascade, which is a well-known bike race in the U.S. And from there, I moved back to Big Bear, raced for Bear Valley Bikes, and got second in Valley of the Sun, which gave me enough points to upgrade to 1, and now I race for Simple Green.
So how did you get involved with Simple Green?
I got involved with Simple Green through contacts I've developed through cycling. As you're going through the ranks, you develop good relationships with coaches and directors, and through a previous coach, I got in contact with the director of Simple Green.
So do you have any exciting plans for the near future?
Yes, I do. Simple Green is going to be racing throughout the Midwest in the next month or so. We're going to go to Sea Otter, Joe Martin, and Tour de Gila, and those are all big races for us. And then after that, I got invited to race for the Nature Valley Pro Chase team, which is a team put together by Nature Valley at the Nature Valley Grand Prix. They take the top amateur from 6 races all over the country. The specific race I did was Tour de Marietta, and I was the top amateur from there, so I got invited to race for them in Nature Valley.
So what can you tell us about the teams, the concepts of the teams?
Well, a lot of people don't view cycling as a team sport, but it's very much so a team sport. Each rider has a different purpose, a different task they need to accomplish throughout the race. Some are feeding, they go back to the cars and get water bottles and food and hand them out to the other racers. Some are at the front pushing the pace of the race so that other people can sit behind them in the draft. A lot of times you can work 30% less sitting behind someone than you can being in the wind.
Is this similar to NASCAR in drafting?
I believe so. I don't know much about NASCAR, but the concept in cycling is when you're behind someone, you're not pushing yourself and your bike through the wind. You can work 30% less being right behind someone than being in front of them in the wind. That's why in racing it always stays together as a big peloton, because no one wants to be in the wind, so they always want to stay behind someone to save energy.
Tell us a little bit about how you would train for a stage race like this.
I would train for a stage race like this by riding a lot. So I have a trainer in Oregon, his name's Bart. He is an old professional cyclist. He trains me through a program on the internet called Training Peaks. I download my files off my bike that have my watts, heart rate, cadence, speed, pretty much everything you want to know, how many joules I burn, which is directly related to calories. I ride long hours some days and then super short some days.
How many hours a week do you think you ride?
I ride anywhere from 12 to 22 hours a week. Some days I'll ride 5 hours and some days I'll ride 45 minutes. But it all depends on where I'm at in my training. Early in the season you do long, easy hours, and then as you get closer to races you do shorter, more intense hours.
Tell us about your power tap that you were just talking about.
A power tap is, there's a hub in my bike that records how much power I'm putting into it, which is measured in watts, and like how many watts per hour you can put out is a big measurement in the cycling world. It can also tell you how many calories you burn and things along that line. Yesterday I did an hour and 15-minute crit and I burned just over 1,000 calories.
Watching some of these races, I saw how tight everything is. Can you take us to race day?
Yeah, that goes back to drafting. Everyone tries to stay really close together so they stay out of the wind. And then also roads get narrow. When you got 200 people trying to ride on the same road, it gets tight. You'll bump into people throughout a race. It's not a big deal. You get used to it. But things do happen. People cross wheels, and when you cross a wheel with your front wheel, you're going down. Crashes happen almost every race. It's part of the sport.
Have you ever been in one of those incidents? Have you ever crashed?
Yeah, I've been in about 3 crashes this year. The first one was actually my second race of the season. I was in a crit and I was leading it out, and I had my old training tires on, which are not good. They get dried out and crack. But anyways, I slid out in the last turn and crashed and took about 10 guys out, which is really not good. And then where did I crash next? San Dimas, it was raining and a couple guys went down in front of me and I went over them. And then at Redlands was a bad one. Me and Christian Crick, who was the team leader for Simple Green at the time, were riding right next to each other, and the road got tight and we got squeezed to the left side. I leaned into the guy to my right and someone hooked my bars from the left, and I went down and took Christian down also. And we were going about 40 miles per hour at the time, and it really hurt. Christian didn't finish the race, I did, but paid for it.
What goes through your mind when something like that happens?
A lot of times you don't even think, it just happens fast. And once you're down, you're just thinking about getting back in the race. At least that's what it is for me.
Behind us, we have Connor's professional road bike. Can you tell us a little bit about this bike?
Yeah, this is my race bike. It's a Cannondale Evo 2. It's the highest Cannondale you can get. It's mostly all carbon fiber, which makes it extremely light and stiff. Stiffness is a big deal because you want all your power going into the road instead of bending your frame. We have 65mm rims, which cut down on wind resistance, low spoke count, which makes the wheel more likely to break, but it's lighter. You got clipless pedals, which my shoes clip into these, and so you can pull up as well as push down, increasing your power. It's got 10 speeds in the back and 2 chain rings in the front, giving me 20 gears. So we have 10 gears in the back here. You can see this is an 11, which is just you count the number of gears, the teeth on the rings. So this is an 11-28. 11 is your sprinting gear, your high speed gear. And you got a 28, which is more of a climbing gear, which is actually a very big climbing gear in the racing world. And then you got 2 chain rings up front. This is a 53 and this is a 39. Your 39s, your climbing gear, going up steep climbs or just training, going easy. And then this is your big ring, which if you're riding in the peloton, you're almost always in your 53.
Can you tell me how fast you've gone on this bike and what is the importance of brakes?
Yeah, the fastest speed I've ever recorded myself was 61 miles an hour. In a race, I've averaged about 28 miles per hour for 100 miles. That's on the faster side, and that's definitely within a peloton. That'd be very hard to do by yourself. The brakes are very important. When you're descending or riding in a peloton, you're constantly feathering your brakes so you don't run into the people around you.
How long does it take to get used to a brand new seat?
Getting used to a new seat can be challenging. Sometimes you never get used to it. A big part of being comfortable on your bike is your shorts. All of our shorts have a chamois, which is basically a pad. So these seats aren't necessarily designed to be super comfortable, more light, and you want to be able to put power basically by sitting on them, so they're narrow.
I noticed you're holding a shoe that clips into here. Is it comfortable to walk in? Tell me about it.
No, it's terribly uncomfortable to walk in. The only two places that contact your ground are here and here, and then you got to roll over onto your toe, and it's terrible to walk in. But cycling, it makes all the difference in the world. You have a carbon fiber sole, which is extremely stiff. It's hard to bend the shoe. You pretty much can't. That's so when you push down on your foot and your heel, it doesn't. All the power goes to the pedal, which will be clipped in right here. This is a little spring that, when you push down, clips under these two hooks. And so when you pull up, you're putting power into the bike as well as pushing down. And then to clip out, you twist your foot instead of pulling up. You just twist it out and it pops off. This is called a kit. It's basically your shirts and jersey. You have a pad, a chamois, and most all kits are made out of Lycra, which is like, it's tight. So it's aerodynamic. You don't want a lot of clothing flapping around in the wind because that's slowing you down, causing turbulence. This is my helmet. This is our Simple Green team helmet. It's made by Cannondale. They're mostly styrofoam with a plastic shell. And a good helmet has a plastic shell that is molded into the foam. A lot of cheap helmets have just a plastic shell that's taped on, and when you crash, that just rips off, and then you just have styrofoam that breaks. So you want a good helmet that has plastic fused into the styrofoam, and they actually have very little padding in here, which is, I found surprising at first, but that's the way it is. It's the foam that absorbs the impact. You adjust it, tightness and looseness back here. Helmets are only good for a couple of years because the styrofoam will dry out and then it becomes brittle and doesn't absorb impacts anymore.
If I was to go out and buy a bike like this, how much would I have to spend?
You'd have to spend a lot. These are very expensive bikes. I believe this frame costs about $5,000 retail, along with these wheels are close to $3,000 with a power tap.
Well, we have to say goodbye to Connor, but we all wish you well and great success in your professional career and hope to see you next year.
Thank you very much.
So from that clip you saw at the beginning of this broadcast, you can see there's a lot of stuff happening at the finish line. The finish line is really where it's all about. That's where the cyclists are heading toward. I just wanted to kind of talk about a little bit about some of the things that will be happening there. There's going to be a lifestyle expo that AEG is producing that's going to have some of the biggest cycling companies bringing their wares up there. There's going to be a lot of free giveaways of things. There's going to be a Michelob Ultra beer tent. Food is going to be served up there. There's a whole variety of activities for people that start about 11 o'clock that morning. So I'd advise people to get up there, get up about 11 o'clock, and you have a couple hours to kind of, look around, get your lay of the land, check out some food, check out some of the really fabulous booths. And there's going to be jumbotrons, so you can watch the last 2.5 hours of the race, so you can kind of follow its progress getting up to Big Bear Lake. And beside that, we got a lot of cool activities we're producing ourselves. I want you to talk about that.
Other than the finish line, we're actually starting the actual week of Tour of California. We'll start on Saturday, May 12th, with the Big Bear Children's Cycle Fest. In conjunction with the Big Bear Unified School District, we're going to have a kind of old-fashioned, come down to the police department, register your bike, get it checked out, get your helmet checked out, go through an obstacle course. We're going to have all kinds of free helmets. So we're going to do a bike drawing for some kids going to walk away with a brand new mountain bike. So it'll really be kind of a cool day. That kind of officially kicks it off. Big Bear Cycling is going to have a series of rides during the week, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday of tour week. Different levels of riders around the lake, down to Running Springs, over Onyx Summit. So anybody that's up early and wants to go for a ride, check out bigbearcycling.com to get the latest schedule of events. We're going to have a King of the Mountain ride on Friday the 18th, which is a ride that you can sign up for at
bigbearclimb.com.
And it'll be a VIP experience where you're going to actually start at the starting line. You're going to go around the lake down to Snow Valley, turn around and come back. There's going to be some time segments where you're going to be timing your time versus what the pros would do the ride in. You're going to actually finish through the finish line with the announcers announcing. So it'll be kind of a really cool morning of event. And then we're following that up with a kids ride, which will again be sponsored by the school district, where we're going to have high school, middle school, and elementary school kids racing up the boulevard through the finish line, kind of as a thing to get the crowd all pumped up before the professional riders come in a little bit later. There's going to be gold sprints that weekend at Nottingham's. There's going to be a little mini bike expo down at Chains Required Bike Shop down at the corner of Big Bear Boulevard and Summit Boulevard. We're going to have a VIP reception, which is open to the public, on Friday evening at Black Diamond Restaurant, where we hope to have either some announcers or some cyclists that'll be there with a little program. So just a ton of stuff going on the week of and leading up to the day of the event.
You know, and again, the bigbearclimb.com, you can find out about all these details. And the really cool thing about this is this kicks off the whole cycling season. I mean, the way that early May, that's when people are just getting out there. And in 2010 and 2011, because of the Amgen Tour California, people are cycling every day of the week up here, and the Cycling Association kind of took the ball and ran with it, and there's just a ton of great stuff happening. So we're overall really thrilled about this whole event. I mean, as you can tell.
And we hope to have everyone in the valley come support it. If you don't want to be at the finish line with all the people, go along the course, and we've got cowbells that you can ring and all kinds of things, but we want to have everybody support, locals and visitors alike, and just show Big Bear to the world stage, what we're all about.
And we're very happy with our local presenting partners that we brought up for this event. First off, we have the Maddage Corporation, which is a local presenting sponsor. And then we have Big Bear Vacations, San Manuel Indian Bingo and Casino, Charter Communications, Snow Summit, Big Bear Cycling Association, and County Supervisor Neil Derry, who is sponsoring the Bike Ballet. So as we've mentioned, this event is called the Amgen Tour California. And where does Amgen come involved in this? And Amgen is a biotech firm. They are involved in this race because they have produced quite a few different medical breakthroughs in the field of cancer. And they've put together this program called Break Away from Cancer, which really gives people a place to go if they feel like they have a family or a loved one or someone that's going through a cancer situation where it is beatable. And they've sponsored, or they've partnered with 4 different nonprofits that provide counseling, some financial help, some ideas of where to get the right treatment, all that kind of stuff. And they've kind of pulled that all together in this breakaway from cancer. And in cycling world, on the race, they have one of the awards they give every day is the most courageous rider, which is a rider that's showed that they've really showed something really extraordinary during that leg of the race. And so they kind of tie that in with the idea of breaking away from cancer, and they present that. And in our community, we have a courageous young man, Nigel Holland, is going to be part of it once again, who has showed everybody that he can beat cancer. He's back in school again. He's out there trying to do physical activities again and being that fun little kid that he used to be. And he's going to be there again this year and going to be I have the opportunity to present the jersey to the most courageous rider, and to me it was one of the most cooler things that happened.
It was a very touching ceremony.
Yeah, it meant a lot to him, meant a lot to his family, and the people at Amgen thought it was just a home run. Is the exact kind of person they want to target.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Nigel Holland. I will again present the most courageous biker jersey award for the 2012 Tour of California Stage 6. Just as it takes great fun to break away from cancer, it will take great fun to break away from so many cycles and win this award. I hope to see you all out at the finish line on May 18th.
You know, one of the coolest things I think, Rick, is this Amgen Tour of California really is Big Bear Super Bowl. It's the opportunity to put Big Bear on the world stage, to show off what a beautiful valley we have and what a great atmosphere we have for professional cycling. And I'm just really excited to be part of it.
Yes, and for all your viewers that watch this program, just remember, Big Bear, the entire world is going to be watching you, so it's going to be a real fabulous day for all of us. Don't forget, Friday, May 18th, 2012, the Amgen Tour of California, the Big Bear Climb. For all details, check out www.thebigbearclimb.com.
This program is brought to you by the Big Bear Lake Resort Association, helping to increase tourism to Big Bear Valley.